when it comes to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and again, Matt Matera wrote a really good article about this over on pewterreport.com, and I definitely think that you guys should go check that out. And the first story on there is the Buccaneers are housing a top inside linebacker on a top 30 visit, and that's Demetrius Knight Jr. Okay, there you go. Viewed as a second-round pick in the 2025 NFL Draft, Pro Football Focus 33rd ranked prospect. I wouldn't hate that as a second-round pick. That's a guy that would fit right in there, right? But when I look at what Jason Light is doing and how he's going about his business and what kind of environment has been fostered with the Buccaneers, right? That is so crucial to the success of an organization, to the franchise as a whole. And I'm really surprised that more teams don't follow suit with what Jason Light is doing. Because you have these organizations out there that really have no plan. They have no kind of, all right, this is what we're going to do. We're going to build here. We're going to build through the draft. We're going to build through free agency. We're going to trade for this guy. You're kind of muddled in mediocrity. You're stuck in purgatory. What's your plan? What kind of roster are you trying to build? What kind of chemistry are you trying to create with your team? Because chemistry and that type of stuff can be overblown. But if you have a real tangible evidence that it works, then man, that is just, you're winning a battle that I don't even know if certain teams realize that is being waged. You want to be able to keep your guys. You want to be able to have an environment where guys feel comfortable coming back. Guys feel comfortable with re-signing. Guys want to get traded here. And when you're here, you know that the team is going to do whatever it takes to make sure that you're comfortable and make sure that you're going to make the right moves to put your team in a position to succeed. Right? And that's one thing, and we'll go through all of our teams here locally. The Buccaneers have done a phenomenal job doing that because they've fostered an environment where Baker Mayfield can be his guy. He can just be himself. Baker can just be Baker. He can call up a guy like Tristan Wirfs. They can go for beers. Nobody's judging them. It's not like the Dallas Mavericks where, who was it? Was it Michael Finley that took the beer out of Luka's hand after they won the Western Conference Finals last year? You're not getting that with the Bucks. Go drink your beer, Baker. Go shotgun a beer, Vita. Go do your thing, Tristan. They're grown-ass men. And they're treated as such. They're respected. You go do what you got to do on your off time. Go be a human being. Go be a friend. Go be a brother. Go be a dad. Go be a husband. Then when you come here, hey, man, lock in. Dial in. The way that the Buccaneers have changed, and it's not just about the winning on the field. The winning is a byproduct of what the environment that has been set in place. And yeah, you could say it was Brady and Arians and Light, but it's still going. It didn't dissipate and it didn't just poof disappear when Tom left. It's still here. And it takes everybody. It takes everybody. It takes the coaches being on the same page last year to make sure that Mike got 1,000 yards. You don't think people realized that? You don't think people were aware of that? You don't think people just said, whoa, that team put themselves maybe in harm's way of possibly turning the football over and losing the game, but they did it because one of their leaders, one of their pillars in the community, one of their future Ring of Honor and Hall of Fame members had a record that was in reach. It was attainable, and everybody was on board with getting it done. And I can't tell you what that feeling was like to hear I was downstairs at the time at Raymond James Stadium, watching it on the TV, and you could feel the rumble at Ray J. That kind of stuff permeates through the entire organization, through the entire fan base. That's the kind of stuff that winners do. It's not always about, I do this because of this number and this number. When you start getting like that, just think about that. The friends that you go out to eat with, they're trying to look at every single number. Well, I only ate, I only had 6 wings, and that's 49 cents each. You're like, Come on, bro. Really? Really? Split the bill, or you get this time and I'll get the next time. Nobody wants to be the penny pincher. Nobody likes that stuff. Even when it goes outside of money. Nobody likes that type of thing where you're always like you're bean counting. Nobody likes that. The Bucks have become one of the most respected organizations in all of sports, and look at how they handled the Mike Evans situation. Look at how look at how they've allowed Baker to flourish. And if you don't think that makes a difference, look at how these guys have been able to come back and bring these guys back. And Chris Godwin leaving more money on the table to stay here. Levante David, not really, all right, having to take his time to make the decision, but once he made the decision to come back, there's no other questions. He's not worried about the team. He's not worried about the leadership. He's not worried about the foundation. He's just going to go out there and play football. Guys retire early when the situations aren't great. Guys take maybe less money or even money or maybe a little bit more money elsewhere when things aren't great. The players are rewarded. And you look outside and you go sign people and you draft people and you make smart decisions. That's what the Buccaneers have done. The Rays, of course, are on the other side of that, where the players look at what the coaches do, and I think there's a redeeming quality there. I think there's a redeeming quality with the Rays where especially players that try to kind of readjust their value, right? Jake Diekman and Rafael Soriano and some of these guys and Charlie Morton and Rich Hill and some of these guys that maybe they're on the backside of their career, they're on the back nine of their career now, right? But they come to the Rays because they know that the coaching is fantastic. The culture's pretty damn good. They're not worried about staying here full time. And we know that's the drawback. We know the drawback of the Rays is the inability to sustain success with the same players. We understand that. But the things that they do well, right? The environment, like even though they didn't think the environment was great last year, and they say that that's one of the big things, like it didn't really outside of that fight, but that was a couple of years ago. Last year, it seemed like they had a pretty good time, right? It wasn't wide open cracks in the foundation when you could see it from a mile away, and you're like, oh wow, guys arguing in the dugout, guys going crazy. And listen, sometimes that's good. Sometimes you need that. You remember BJ Upton and Evan Longoria years ago. But it didn't seem like there was any noticeable fractures when it came to the Rays. But we know what their shortcomings are. But the positive things, some of the things that they do share with the Buccaneers, that's why they're still able to be competitive on the field despite what goes on off of it, despite what goes on with the ownership, despite what goes on when it comes to the lack of, flow of finances when it comes to the payroll. But I asked this question then about that. And, as I'm talking about this, I'm thinking about it. Do you think that affects the overall product on the field? Because at the end of the day, the Rays have made it to the World Series twice, but they've never won it. And I wonder if that is a drawback. I don't want to say guys try less, but does it affect the bottom line as far as how successful they're going to be if guys don't really have that vested interest? If they don't really feel like they're going to be there for a while anyway, they're going to get traded at the deadline anyway. Because even if it takes just a little minuscule, even unintended portion from their production, the Rays need every single drop of that to be successful. And they just don't have it. They don't have it. They have to overcome all of these obstacles and the things that the Buccaneers and their fans and their players, they don't have to worry about. And then we look at the Lightning. The Lightning sometimes have to make tough business decisions. We know that. We've seen it with Palat. We've seen it with Killorn. We saw it with McDonough the first time. We've seen it with a lot of different guys with the Bolts that have to, Gord. You've seen it with a lot of these guys. And when you look at what Julien BriseBois has done, he's had success. He's won 2 Stanley Cups. And with the salary cap the way it is, I think players know it's not because they don't want to keep them here. It's because they can't keep them here. And guys outperform their contract and they have to go get that money somewhere else. Andre Palat being one of those guys, right? But you did reward Chernak and you did reward Cirelli and you did reward Sergachev. Point got paid. Vazzy got paid. Kuch got paid. Hedman got paid. We obviously know what happened with Stamkos. But within the Tampa Bay Lightning organization, and it comes from the top with Jeffrey Vinik, guys love playing here. Guys love being within this organization and living in the Tampa Bay area. I mean, Yanni Gourde is still smiling days or weeks after getting reacquired. It's going to take Oliver Bjorkstrand a little bit, but he even said it himself in that first day, out of all the teams, for Tampa to be that place where I was going, I was really excited. That's what you want to hear. You know the organization is going to treat you like a professional. And look at what the Four Nations has done. The Four Nations face-off has been a pain. And the guys are feeling it, whether it was imminently right after with a guy like Connor McDavid, or maybe sometimes now where I think it even affects John Cooper. Like even he, the other night when we spoke to him before the game, just a little like, man, I need a little bit of a break here. So he'll take a day off. He won't go to morning skate. He's given those guys, he's given Cirelli and Hagel and Point and Gensel and Hedman, he's given them a little bit more of a rest. That's that type of mindset, though, of we hear you, player X. We hear you, player Y. We hear you, player Z. You need a break. It's not because you're lazy. It's because you need that physical rest. You need that mental rest. So that organization understands its players. And again, going back to Jason Light, where I started with this entire thing, he's winning because he's established a culture of winning and understanding and togetherness and making everybody feel important and that they're part of the solution, not part of the problem. Somebody messes up, it isn't screw this guy, he sucks, he's not one of us. No, people wrap their arms around him and they say, hey, man, it happens to everybody. We'll get better next time. Julien BriseBois is a guy that's been doing that for a while as well. And he shows his team every single year, more than the other two teams here, because it's different in football. We know baseball doesn't do it. But every single year, Julien BriseBois sends a message to the Bolts. Hey, you guys may be good, but I am going to make sure that I go out and I get resources to help you be even better. Do you know what that means to a team? Do you know what that means to players when they know that the general manager is working the phones, when they know that he is a guy that is spending 365 days trying to make his roster better to improve his team? Even if it's a business decision it may not agree with, nobody's ever going to confuse Julien BriseBois with a general manager that doesn't put forth the effort to get his team in a position where they're going to be contending for a Stanley Cup. We act like that is so like that's the obvious. Of course, that's what they get paid to do. But it doesn't seem like that with everybody, does it? It doesn't seem like that with every team in professional sports. My hands are tied. Don't know what I can do. Never get that. Even with Julien, who's been so close to the salary cap the last couple of years. I've got to make moves. Deals in, money in, money out. The only way I can do it. He finds a way. He goes out and gets two fan favorites and brings them back in Ryan McDonagh and Yanni Gourde. Some general managers would have such an ego or a stubbornness that they wouldn't do that. They wouldn't bring those guys back. But he looked at Ryan McDonagh and said, this is what our decor is missing. This is how I'm going to unlock Eric Chernak's really consistent level of play where he's one of the best shutdown defensemen in the league. We need a middle six guy that's an absolute Tasmanian devil. Let's go get a guy like Yanni Gourde. This isn't a guy going to the well 2 times because he doesn't know what else to do. This is a guy that is identifying pieces that is going to help his team win and succeed. I love that when it comes to a guy like Julien BriseBois. Again, think about that message that it sends the rest of the organization. Whatever it takes to win. I'm going to make sure that my guys are in a position to succeed. I'm going to make sure that they're happy. I'm going to make sure that they're comfortable. Julien BriseBois, just like Jason Licht, finding a way to build that winning culture.